Hey there, friend. Thanks for joining me on this episode 47. Today, I am joined by Darren Virassammy from 34strong.com. He's the COO there. One of the things that I like the most is just connecting with fellow business owners who get it. He's highly successful with his firm, and so we had a chat about what it means to create certainty in your business, especially during these uncertain times. And so I love this topic. He talks about how he is creating that certainty in order to create sustainability, right? In order to create that the productivity, predictability, and all of these things that, again, during these times, this is what we need more than ever. So I hope you enjoy the show because I think this is a really, really good one. So here we go. Let's go. Hey there, I'm Patty Dominguez. You're about to discover what it means to position your brand and your business to stand out. This show explores the stories of small business owners just like you who are bringing their message out to the world and impacting their tribe. So if you want to take your business to a category of one status, then hang with me because this podcast shares everything you need to know about how to be more prolific with your brand so that you can have more profits. All right, Darren Virassammy, thank you so much for being on the show. As Chief Operating Officer of 34 Strong, I found your website incredibly impressive and really interesting. And for the listeners, a very compelling conversation coming up because we're talking about, with everything going on right now, what we can do to harness the change, talking about certainty and all these other elements. But first, a very hearty welcome. Thank you so much for being here. It's such an honor to have you.
Patty, thanks so much for having me. Really looking forward to our chat today.
Absolutely. And we've already been chatting a little bit behind the scenes. And as I was listening, I'm like, wait. We want to make sure we're grabbing all this good stuff here. So just for the benefit of the listeners, if you could give us just a quick 2-3 minute story about your background, how you got to where you are, and really with this amazing background that you have to really shift cultures and create a huge impact in the small to medium-sized business market. And while you have vast knowledge in other arenas like the bigger companies, for the listeners here, just hearing your story would be hugely beneficial.
Yeah, I like to say I came up through small business. I had a chance to work before I went off on my own. I had a chance to work in small businesses and I worked in some large organizations. I had the pain and privilege of working in highly functional, highly engaged teams, some of the best teams that I've ever worked in, and the pain of working on some of the most dysfunctional, disengaged organizations and teams I've ever been in. And actually, 2 of them took place at the same time.
Wow.
So it was fascinating, the juxtaposition in your mind that takes place in these spaces. It all led to a moment, Patty, where my daughter ends up laughing out loud for the first time in my lap. She was 4.5 months old, and we were on Lanai, a balcony on the big island of Hawaii overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and it was absolutely incredible. And in that moment, I saw nothing but pure potential in her. I was like, she's going to talk, she's going to walk, she's going to not listen to me, which she does really well now, right? She's turning 8 soon. So that's a whole fun story, right? But all these sorts of elements are happening. That was amazing. Now, I asked in that moment, what happened with my potential? What happened with your potential, Darren? That was terrifying. That was this juxtaposition of thoughts. I was in a job at the point, commuting 200 miles round trip from Sacramento, California, down to the San Francisco Bay Area. And in that time, I'm sitting here on this balcony with 2 of the most important people in my life, only to realize I wasn't living a life that was making them the most important. I was disengaged in my job. I'd actually gotten really good at something I didn't love at all. And at the same time, I was actually teaching at a college here in the Sacramento region, and I was able to actually be really impactful in my work. I was highly engaged in that job, loved the culture and the team that was there. And I said, I can either decide to have the skills to make an impact and live a life where I'm not making that impact and staying in a role where I'm just collecting a paycheck, or I can go out and do something about it. So I'm incredibly gracious and thankful for that moment in Hawaii. And 2 months after that, I actually met my business partner in 34 Strong, and we really focus on creating organizational cultures small teams and large teams, where every organization can become a great place to work. And it's really helping with creating cultures of employee engagement. And for us, Patty, the final thing I'll say is because of that moment I had with my daughter, and that I know the pain that I was going through at that time of just being disengaged and seeing what that did to an organization. I didn't want my daughter to grow up seeing her dad in a place where he was just checking a box, collecting a paycheck, and then going through that. So the power of the work that we do when I co-founded the company with my business partner, Brandon Miller, was along the lines of not just impacting the workplace now, it's what do the small seeds of change today create for generations to come on the whole work experience and even the life experience for the children, for the communities that people are living in and working in when they're going to work feeling valued for being valuable.
I love this on many, many levels. I got chills because you can really see that in that moment that you had with your daughter, you had this epiphany and it really led you to take action. And that's the thing. It's like that was the seed of inspiration in which you took to develop this company. And we never know what those moments could lead up to. In other words, you creating 34 Strong, pairing up with your business partner, the impact that you're having, and just being really aligned, right, with your higher purpose and the things that bring you joy and keeping you in your zone of genius. It's how we know that we're on the right path when we're just like it fuels the fire to say, this is exactly what I should be doing. And it all started because you took that first step in good faith to say, something's got to change, right? Something's got to change.
It did. And the simple piece that follows up with that, Patty, was that moment in realizing how amazed I was with my daughter, coupled with what path am I on? I knew one thing for certain. If I stayed on the path that I was on, I was destined to have a regretful life.
Mm-hmm.
I was destined. I was on that path. So that box was being checked. So I could go through the fear of change or the fear of regret. Mm-hmm. But knowing fully well at that moment that I was going to have regrets. And I would have the ability to make the change and lean into that and embracing that fear. You know, fear, false experiences appearing real, fear, right? And I leaned into that as opposed to just staying on the what we oftentimes will call the safe path of just doing what we know or what we think we know, and expecting different results. It doesn't work out that way. We're going to get those same results that we've had.
I totally agree. And it reminds me so much of my background. It's like I had this really great corporate job and on paper it looked so fulfilling. But when you started, I remember it was so poignant for me. I was on this international conference call. It was really important. And I had this weird moment of what it was called like hysterical blindness, like a panic attack almost. And I was like, wait a minute, this shit is not, this is not normal. Like, this is not normal. This is my body telling me that I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And really recognizing that for me in that moment, I was like, okay, something's got to change. I got to go do something different. And so fast forward to where we are now with this unprecedented, event that is happening, right? This whole quarantine thing. There are small business owners, small to medium-sized business owners, people in corporate jobs, and there's change. There's change. It's here. And we are in this moment of you can freeze up, curl up in a ball, and just freak out because there's that uncertainty. There's change that's coming. They don't know how to rationalize. And from my perspective, I'm seeing that small business owners, solopreneurs are just really being confronted with that moment of truth to say, okay, what am I going to do? I'm not sure what to do. As somebody with the expertise of working with the companies that you work with, Darren, and I'm sure that you've seen your fair share of, pivots and changes. What's your perspective on what small business owners can do?
Well, number one, just embrace it. Take a moment to pause. Feel all of what's coming at you, the emotions, the pain, the uncertainty, the questions that are running through that. But let's not make that debilitating in that space. That moment that I had with my daughter, when I think back to that, you talked about the power of the moment, that panic attack that you had. I had one of those in my previous job, that same job before as well. I didn't heed those warnings because I was so busy checking the box or working on the next box to check. Moments like this, because we're forced to slow down and feel like we're moving really, really quickly at the same time because of the uncertainty, they create spaces for us to pause. They create spaces for us to actually look, to think, and actually find that clarity. And it's in those moments when we can actually be present and calm enough, we can find those. So getting back to your question, what can small business owners do right now? Well, hey, I'm a small business owner too. So this is part of some of the stuff that I've been eating my own cooking here as well. Pausing has been huge. Jonathan Fields, the host of the Good Life podcast, he wrote a book on uncertainty back in, I think it was 2011. And we've been doing a lot of resiliency coaching, but there's right now for a lot of our clients, and just how do we manage through this season. One of the principles in that book that we've been utilizing and sharing in our resiliency coaching that we've been doing with leaders and different facets of our clients is find what he calls certainty anchors. What are the things right now in your day-to-day that are still certain amidst everything that you don't know, in the midst of those moments of complete, oh my gosh, where do I pivot? What do I do with my business? What can you see that's certain? Right now, what's certain? I'm standing on the floor. The floor is still here, and thankfully, the forces of physics are still working. It's giving me something to stand. Patty, I'm talking about looking at stupid, simple things that are certain. Right now, we have the grace for many of us that live here in North America. We hit a light switch, lights go on. We go to a faucet, water turns on. We step outside, the sun still rises every day. The reason we get to this level of granular focus on what is still certain in life is because we need to actually mirror those pieces into our business. And the only way to get our mind seeing certainty when all this wave of uncertainty is flooding us from a business level is a function of conditioning our mind to actually see the certainty.
Okay, we're about halfway through with this episode, but I wanted to make sure that you knew about my new Positioning to Profit quiz so that you can discover how to use the key pillars of positioning to give yourself the ultimate edge for your business. It's an assessment, personalized plan of action to overcome these roadblocks that are keeping you from even more profit. So head on over to positioningquiz.com. All right, let's continue with the show.
So what I've been doing is doing that every day before I decide to jump into my day and look at emails and going through and some of these different areas. First hour and a half of my day, I've still been getting up really early and protecting that, and I don't jump into any of this. And that time is more sacred now than it's ever been. And it's just a function of sometimes going outside before sunrise, seeing the stars, just hearing the silence. Some people like to meditate. Some people like to exercise. Whatever it is, keeping those little pieces together, and that can build more and more certainty in your life and in your business. But that's how we get to capturing the areas that we can really shine right now.
I love that, Darren, because it really is rooted in creating habits. And we know in Atomic Habits, he calls it habit stacking, right? So how you start out your day with that predictability so that it's setting the course for the day that you want to experience. And the other side of it is really recognizing that you can be in the moment, right? I know as seemingly trite as this is, I think it's very powerful because we've all had, with everything going on, some people have had freak out moments and all these moments. And the other day I was just outside and you hear the birds. The birds are chirping. It's a beautiful day and they're present. They're in the now, right? And so this isn't even about woo. This is about just grounding yourself and really looking at things in a way of like starting out the day on the right foot, choosing what you want to see. And then it inevitably has this snowball effect so that it crosses over into your work day. And that's how I'm interpreting what you're saying. Have I captured that right from what you meant?
Absolutely. It's completely the complete opposite of woo. It's basic science and it's basic biology. to your point of the birds are still chirping, it's just reminding us that it's not woo-woo to take in the fact that a bird is chirping. It's actually acknowledging the birds are still chirping. They're still going through their lives. Okay, my roof is still over my head. These are basic things that are rooted in simple science and simple nature that's right around us, and it has nothing to do. It's actually just pausing to say, I'm going to acknowledge that. That's still certain, and reframing the question that we're asking. Because right now, with the sea of information that's coming at us, what is it showing? Uncertainty. I don't know what's going to happen. Not sure when the economy is going to go through. Not sure when I'm going to get my loan for my business or how my business is going to make it. So we've got to actually intentionally ask the question of what's certain and looking for the simplest evidence of certainty in life is all we're doing. And that's the basic, all we're doing is shifting the question.
I love that. I love that. It just really recognizing that at the end of the day, it's choice, right? It's as simple as when you synthesize this whole message, it's about choice. Now, understanding that with everything going on, there's a new normal. What have you found as a small business owner yourself that has been really helpful for you as you've incorporated running a business alongside your children? Because it sounds like you have 2 kids. Is that right, Darren?
I do. Yeah, I have a 4-year-old son, an aspiring drummer who thankfully is not drumming right now, or you'd be thinking
that's okay.
That.
Yeah,
so
that's all right.
Be hearing that in the background. We drum, we play music together in the evening. So we did a killer rendition of "Come Together" the other night. But I've got
that's so great.
And my daughter is 7. Now he's learning on the drum, so I don't know how killer it was, but he did pretty good. I'm pretty proud of his drumming. So how it's come together. So, but yeah, I do. So the question again, Patty, I just want to make sure I got that right. Like, how do we work in this new life with having kids and
the new normal. So we all talk about, it's funny. I have a client of mine. She's a dear client of mine. She's a psychologist, and she's just like, her feedback she's getting a lot is like, I can't believe I'm in the house with my entire family and I'm trying to run my business, because you're creating a new routine. So there's presumably a lot of disruptions. So we were talking before about how you have this really clever way of kind of infusing that interaction with your children as you're getting set up for your day. And like, what are some of those tips as we're really looking at a new normal, right? And so without sacrificing productivity and all that other stuff.
So yeah, that's such an important question. And for one of the things that I've seen is we've got to lean into it, right? We've got to lean into it. There's this great story I heard that I'll share that I think highlights what I've been able to do with my kids. And in times of storms, when there's big storms that are coming, cows and buffaloes operate completely differently from each other. When a storm is coming, cows will see it coming and they'll work to run away from it. They try to outrun it. And you and I both know you're not going to outrun a storm. The storm's coming, it's going to get you. Buffaloes, when they see that same storm coming, they turn towards the storm and run right at it. And in so doing, they spend less time in the storm, while the cows spend far more time in the storm. With the kids, I, like many of your clients, many that are listening, had that struggle. I was being a cow. I was trying to run from it, but my kids are right on the other side of that door. So what's happened is I've said, okay, what are the ways that they can help and be a part of the work that I'm doing? So a great example of this is when I'm setting up for WebExes or setting up for podcasts today, just testing the lights, the video, the audio levels, making sure that everything's all dialed in, my mic's working properly, getting my desk lifted to the right height. Kids come in and they're a part of that. They actually come in, they help set that up. I even took a photo with them set up. My wife came in, took a little photo of it set up. And here's the cool part. They were responsible for making a sign for my door that says, when the door is closed, Dad's on a call or recording a show or something along those lines, don't come in. They made the sign. So guess what? That created engagement on their side. I haven't had issues with them barging in when that door is closed. Now, the flip side of that is when I'm not on a recording or not on a call or a session with the client, I leave the door slightly open. And they know at that point, even though I might prefer to just stay razor focused on what I'm doing, let it go, run at the storm. Sometimes they'll just come in, they'll see that, and they'll just come in, just check on me. And it's a pause in the day, and you just embrace it. And it's moving away from the mindset of I'm going to do all of these things and everything's going to get done the way that I've scripted it out. It's actually been a process of flipping that script, of checking all of the traditional boxes that we're going through, and actually, again, practicing, embrace the little pauses, see what comes, see what they need, because they need to feel loved and connected in this time. The worst thing we can do right now is spend more time with each other as families and different things and actually disconnect more from each other. And that's a risk that we all run because of the stresses that we're on. So that's been some of the nuggets I've seen for myself and others' practices that I've kind of connected with around this as well. That seems to be helping out.
Super helpful, Darren. And then in terms of the small business owners, and I know that one of the things that you talked about that 34 Strong has as part of their assessment, as part of that unique formula to help create a place that people love to work, is around staying in your, and this is again my interpretation, your zone of genius. So with everything going on for the small business owners, what are some practical tips, maybe 2 or 3 practical tips that they can apply again in the environment that we're in? Changes the coming. What is your suggestion for dealing with that in terms of, should I stay in your zone of genius? Do I take on more? Am I going to wear more hats? Like how, again, what are a couple of tips that someone could take right now?
I think first is identifying your zone of genius and remembering you have one. So in the place of certainty, of finding the certainty anchor, is exactly why we build from the little things into this. The bigger arc of this is getting back to, okay, I've seen this, these elements of certainty, the sun rises, the birds are chirping, as you talked about. Well, it's certain that you have something of genius. Pausing to actually look back and saying, okay, what is this? What is this genius? What are the things that we do incredibly well? In fact, that our business does so well, or that I, as a solopreneur, show up, and it's so easy for me. I even had to convince myself to get paid from it, right? So that's something a lot of solopreneurs go through. But you're so good at it, don't forget that. But when you go through, you can actually look at creating a flywheel of some sort. So identifying what is the genius, and then just look at the environment and just kind of flywheel off of that, draw different lines towards what are other ways that this could be used. And give yourself permission to have no wrong, no crazy answers. In fact, the crazier the idea, the better right now. Things are unprecedented, so your thinking should be unprecedented. So thinking about what that is. If you struggle with that, talking to somebody, like I'm sure your clients might be talking to you about these sorts of things. This can be an exercise that you're going through, having somebody to bat ideas or ask you the right questions about. And identifying, so what is your genius? You also got to have your areas of what are the things that you do that are great. You're really good at, you do solid. They might not come quite to the level of genius where it just flies off of you seemingly without even thinking, but you're pretty darn good at it. Those will evolve from that place as well. And you can perform well because there might be nuggets in there where you can cross over. I'll give you an example of this. I enjoy keynoting. I enjoy doing interviews, and I enjoy facilitating a lot of trainings. I'm good at coaching. I can hold my own in coaching, and people have enjoyed me. I've been able to turn the needle. And I'm solid at it. I think I'm better at facilitating, at keynotes, and some of these areas than I am coaching. But coaching for me is in a zone of greatness, but I don't know if I'd qualify it as more of a zone of genius as some of the other areas might be. But you can hold your own in it. We've got our areas of grind. And these are things, no matter how much you try and do. In fact, Patty, just thinking about them, your stomach starts turning, right? You go to knots. Are there any of those that we can let go of? Or are there any ways that maybe right now is a great opportunity to create some complementary partnerships? What are the things that I can pull out of doing that I can partner up with somebody? Maybe I can do some trading with somebody based on things that are in my zone of greatness and genius. Go back to the roots of bootstrapping as entrepreneurs to get you through. Sometimes we're not fighting to win, we're fighting to stay in the fight. And right now, more than ever, that's a big part of what we're going through. And shifting that perspective can be helpful. There's a resource at our website that takes people through this exercise at 34strong.com, where they can actually download a worksheet that will help guide them through how to think about this, how to evaluate how much time you're actually spending in your grind zone, greatness zone, and your genius zone.
I love that. And I'm going to post it, of course, in the show notes so everybody could take advantage of that, because that's so smart, is really reflecting on where you being consciously competent, which is just okay, but you shouldn't be there. You should be in your zone of genius. And of course, you want to avoid the grind. I love that, because the grind is real. Like for me, it was the bookkeeping stuff. There's just no way. That's probably the first thing I outsourced. There's just no way I could do that.
To that point, we're never fully going to eliminate the grind, but we will be able to minimize the grind. We're always going to have grind in our business. I want to make sure I'm giving a realistic perspective of this. This is not some fairy tale of you're never going to have grind. It's called work. We're business owners. We signed up for this, right? Yeah. You're going to have some grind. You're going to have things that come up. It's not going to be fun. But if we're spending more time in greatness and genius and minimizing the grind, we can therefore maximize the impact of the greatness and genius zone.
Yeah, I love it. All right. As we are transitioning, just some fun questions to tap more into Darren's brain and his zone of genius here. All right. Person, place, or thing. What are 3 things that inspire you, Darren?
So person, place, or thing could be the answer. So my family inspires me. That's every single one of them. My wife, my daughter, and my kiddo. The bass. I've been an electric bassist for many, many years. That has been profound. In fact, that's been a huge certainty anchor for me right now. Every day I play my bass and I tell it thank you, because it keeps me sane and gives me a level of root focus. A place, being outside. Being outside is huge for me, and just even if it's just in the backyard, but just getting a chance to connect with nature, just taking in the birds flying by sometimes can just have a huge calming effect. And then I think one more, the other thing is for me is exercise. I'm a martial artist as well. So practicing martial arts, doing my forms, doing work on the bag. My kids are as well. So we've been holding home class right now a few days a week, just like we normally would. And I'm an instructor for it. So it's been a lot of fun keeping that going. And that's in good times and in crazy times.
I love that. And it goes back to the creating those certainty moments, right? Those are those anchors for your kids and your connections to your kids. That's awesome. Okay, so it was really weird because this interview stopped right at this moment, and I wasn't able to get the tail end of the interview. We were just really transitioning off of the show, but I wanted to keep the recording because I thought it was such a good episode. So you want to connect with Darren Virassammy. He's again at 34strong.com. That's the number 34, so 34strong.com. He's also on LinkedIn and Facebook, and his social media handles and all his information is going to be in the show notes. And you can find out more about their why and how they work with creating teams and government organizations, private organizations, just a really professional firm that they have created. Again, that is at 34strong.com. So with that, thank you so much for checking out this episode. I appreciate you as always. And thank you for being okay with this small snafu. Hey, it happens. And all I can say is that I hope that this was providing you with some nuggets that you can walk away with. Thank you so much for checking out the Positioning to Profit podcast. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes. And also, it would mean the world to me if you would take a quick moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast player. It really helps to get the word out about the podcast and, of course, the featured guests. And lastly, please make sure to connect with me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm on all of them. And use hashtag positioning to profit so that I can search you out and connect that way too. All right. Thanks so much. See you next time.